Konnichiwa, Sakai. It's Ink from AMF Studios, and today we're doing something a little different. Pokemon, the world's most successful video game franchise. Kind of impossible not to know these days. Well, what you might not know about is that recently there's been a trend in artists asking the question, what if I made a Pokemon region? What Pokemon would be in it? What would it be based on? Well, today, I'm answering those questions myself. That's right, your girl Ink is getting in on the Fakemon action here. For a little preamble, my region is called Aster. What is it based on? Well, we're doing something a little unique. You see, every region I've come across so far is usually based on one specific culture, be it Greece, Australia, all that jazz. So I decided, what if I combined two? Instead of one real-world location, I will be combining two into the Aster region. Those being the general Midwestern Great Lakes area of the United States, because I live here, and my favorite foreign culture, Japan, specifically the Kansai region, which is most known for its folklore. Now, I know Johto is already the Pokemon equivalent of Kansai. However, you could argue that Gen 2 was just Kanto Plus, and really didn't have its own identity outside of that. In Japanese folklore, specifically yokai, really lend themselves to interesting character designs, like the Jorogumo or Nekomata. You can make a bunch of stuff out of this, and there's plenty of untapped potential for more Pokemon regions. So, my region will be in equal parts American and Japan, kind of the best aspects of both fused together. Oh, and this is in the future. This hypothetical Pokemon fan game would take place 25 years after the canon Pokemon timeline, allowing for a technologically advanced region, mostly because of my region's themes, technology versus nature, but we'll get into that later. Today, however, you will get your first taste of the kind of Pokemon you'll find in the Aster region, those being the starters. I put a lot of work into these little guys, and I want to show them off. And a little disclaimer, I did not make shinies, and I'm not going to bring up their stats or abilities, because I'm not good at game balancing, unless they have like something specifically new that needs to be brought up. So, without further ado, let's get into them. Okay, first off, we have our grass starter, and the one I am most proud of naming. Say hello to Infantry. His name comes from infant, elephant, tree, and it altogether sounds like infantry, which is part of the military, of course. He's a little grass elephant with a little watermelon cap like he's a playing soldier. If you've watched Subjectively, you'll know that most starter trios these days, both real and in Fakemon, have a theme to them. So for my theme, I went with Army, Navy, and Air Force, because the military is important to both American and Japanese culture. Unfortunately for little Infantry here, who represents the Army, I knew I wasn't going to be able to copy Ken Sugimori's art style, so rather than trying to make it look perfect, I just tried to make it look good. So, as the first of the bunch, he was kind of the experimental Pokemon. Thankfully, he's a cute little guy. Infantry, the elephant Pokemon, a pure grass type. Infantry march about the forest, imitating their parents by playfully charging at each other. It's said they are distant cousins to Caparaja. Of course, Infantry will evolve into Gronin. That's Gronin, which is samurai without a master, and together it sounds like Gronin, which is what this Pokemon does a lot. You see, Infantry is based on little kids pretending to be soldiers, thinking it's all just a game. This is when that little kid becomes a young adult and actually enters the military, and realizes it's not as fun as they thought. Combine that with the samurai aspects, which are really subtle, like those little patterns at the bottom of its feet resembling samurai training robes and all. Gronin is basically that awkward middle stage that most starters have. It's trying to figure things out in life, I guess. And while it's like that, it'll just be Gronin the whole time, hence its name. Gronin is also a pure grass type, but it will gain a new typing when it fully evolves. And we'll get to that in just a little sec. Gronin, the elephant Pokemon, a pure grass type. Gronin have begun to see combat and are disheartened by what they've seen, though a strong bond with their trainers will no doubt reignite their fighting spirits. And finally, for its final evolution, we have Undaunted, Here's where its inspiration really starts to come through. You see, it's based on a mastodon, a cousin to the woolly mammoth, as most grass starters are based on extinct megafauna. This makes Undaunted the most traditional of the three starters. The other two are really unconventional. Undaunted is like the All Might of Pokemon. It's gotten over whatever it was going through in Gronin, and now is completely focused on helping those in need. Because of this, it's now gained the fighting type, as well as its samurai aspects becoming more apparent. I'll tell you this, I thought of the watermelon thing on a whim, but I love it. Undaunted would be a tank of a Pokemon with high defense and HP. Its signature move, Forward Charge, would be dual grass and fighting, where it charges into its opponent at its top speed. I don't know how much power it would do because, well, I'm not that good at game balancing. Undaunted, the Soldier Pokemon. The grass and fighting type. After overcoming its disheartened state, now it will do whatever it can to defend those in need. Its thick fur is said to be as strong as oak. And now for some more unconventional starters. Up until Gen 9, all fire starters could reasonably be fit into the Chinese zodiac, with a little leap in logic to do so. But now that there's a crocodile fire starter, I decided throw the zodiac out. We're doing something different. This is Flarva, a flare larva lava bug thing. He's a fire and bug type, obviously, and he's a little larva that shoots flares from his lava lamp abdomen. Well, note that when it got to Flarva, I was a bit more comfortable in how my art was going to look for this. A bit better at the style. But there will be some problems that I'd address it for his second stage. Now, you're probably wondering, if he's the larva, what is he the larva of? Well, we'll get to that in a moment, right after we show off his middle stage. Flarva, the fireworm Pokemon, a fire and bug type. Flarva are known to be quite irritable, prone to launching blasts of flame from their abdomen when threatened. This Pokemon has another name that I'm quite proud of, Rock-Cocoon. Rocket and Cocoon. This is your standard Metapod, Kakuna, you know, the pupa to the larva. Now, unlike pretty much every other pupa Pokemon, Rock-Cocoon is fast. It has a vent at the bottom of itself that it can shoot flames out of to propel itself. Hence the rocket part of its name. It's literally a living rocket. Now, I admit I could have done the flames better. Like I said, the starters are pretty much experimental Pokemon to set the tone for the rest of them. I will say, though, that this entire line's lava aspects I am quite proud of, especially in its final evolution. Now, you're gonna get to see what happens when this cocoon cracks open. Rock-Cocoon, the rocket Pokemon. Despite having no limbs, Rock-Cocoon has no trouble getting around, launching itself with pressurized bursts of fire at high speeds. Okay, remember in 2019 when there were suddenly Asian murder hornets in the US, and then they disappeared just as fast? Well, what would happen if we gave one of those a fiery temperament? This black Air Force energy bug. This is Hornetpom, a fire poison type, a stealth bomber Hornet. It continues its line's theme of explosives. It represents the Air Force in our military trio, obviously, and its poison type is a reference to how some bombs, the blast may not kill you, but the radiation fallout, probably gonna. I'm particularly fond of the little lava patterns I gave its wings and tail, and I like how its angry eyebrows look like the extra eyes Vespas tend to have. Its signature move is Dive Bomb, a dual fire and poison type move. Hornetpom, the Hornet Pokemon, a fire and poison type. Aggressive flyers, Hornetpom are known to be brutal in battle, attacking after the slightest provocation. Water types have always been my favorite, so I needed to do it justice. With the most unconventional of my starter Pokemon, this is Baybat, a baby bat that lives by the bay. It's a mono water type flying fox. Now you're probably wondering, 1, why would it be the mono water type if it's a flying fox, and 2, why is it a flying fox to begin with? For the second question, because it's unconventional and I love it. For the first one, giving it the flying type would screw up the type triangle. So maybe it has levitate as its ability or something. You know, make it functionally a flying type, but without giving it that edge over infantry. I loved the idea of it using its wings like a little baby swaddle, or like it's got a little blanket around it, and its tail pops out, making it look like a regular fox, kinda. Baybat, the false fox Pokemon, a water type. Baybat are known to imitate fox Pokemon in order to gain favor from humans. This ruse rarely works. Now, this line is meant to represent the Navy in our military trio, and if you haven't known, the Navy actually has a huge cultural impact on Japanese schools, because all schoolgirl uniforms were at least designed after naval uniforms, originally being hand-me-downs. I wanted to reference that in Foxcen's design, Foxcen being a combination of fox and senin, which is Japanese for sailor. Because she's supposed to look like she's wearing a schoolgirl uniform, Foxcen is the most overtly feminine of the 3 starters. I also gave her a little gossip girl pose, mostly because it was the best personality I could think of for something that relies on hearing in most of its life, like a bat does. Ultimately, I think it's one of the more unique personalities starter Pokemon have gotten. As well, we have gotten a girly girl before, we didn't really have a gossip girl. Foxcen, the false fox Pokemon, a water type. Foxcen are renowned for their excellent sense of hearing. Supposedly, they can hear a Butterfree's wings from a mile away. Its final form is when its inspirations finally start making sense. You see, Kitsune were known as both tricksters and helpers in Japanese society, and they were known to have a variety of elemental abilities, including water. So obviously, a naval Kitsune bat, which uses its watery powers for justice. That's kind of what I went for. It also gains the ghost type to reference the spiritual nature of the fox. Now, most water starters' final forms tend to have weapons involved, although I can name like 3 that don't. So in order to tie that into the bat part of it, I brought in the Blind Swordsman. Its eyes may be shot, but its hearing and spiritual sense are on point. It has a signature move, Sunken Saber, which lets it use its wings as a dual water and ghost type blade. They also look like the coat of an admiral. Kitsunavi, the Kitsune Pokemon, a water and ghost type. Despite being blind, a Kitsunavi always knows where their prey lies, ready to strike with their ghostly wings. Well, there you have it. The Aster region starter Pokemon. Infantry, Flarva, and Baybat. Which one would you pick if this were to be a game? Personally, I'm partial to Baybat, but like, they're all my babies. I was also going to show off the trainer designs I have cooked up, but if I do, then I won't be able to upload this video. Make sure to like and subscribe so that we can get more of these out there. I have plans for the Aster region decks to reach 150. Who knows, might even take some fan suggestions while I'm at it. But to do that, we'll need fan support. So until then, ink out.